Good afternoon. I would like to call the July 6, 2023 special board meeting to order. It is 4:00 p.m. There is a quorum present, and notice of this meeting has been posted in a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cliff Williams.
Present.
Mr. Scott Carson.
Present.
Mr. Coach Perry.
Present.
Kyle Holmeyer.
Present.
Ms. Paulette Traylor. My name is Chad Jones. Our missing member is Ms. Nikita Lagway. Thank you.
Our public comment section, we have two people that have signed up to speak today. The board will now hear comments from the audience only during the public comment portion of our meeting. The comments will pertain to an item on the agenda. The speaker will have 3 minutes to present. Please respect the privacy of others and refrain from identifying students, employees, and other community members by name. I will determine whether a speaker has attempted to resolve a matter administratively through resolution channels established by policy. If not, the speaker will be referred to the appropriate policy to seek resolution. Disruption of this meeting will not be tolerated at any time. Per board policy, the board does not respond during public comments. Our first speaker today is Ms. Diane Hibner.
My topic today is agenda. In reviewing today's agenda items, I noticed that the board will be receiving legal advice for items 3 and 4 and will carry on with these items in open discussion in item 5. I would hope that the board would delay as many of the decisions as possible until some stability has been established within the district amidst our tight economic situation. Needless spending on former proposed projects needs to be reviewed with due diligence until the leadership of a new superintendent. We, the people, believe that many of your former employees' recommendations were based on political and personal influences. A perfect example was the interlocal agreement between WISD and Montgomery County Constable Precinct 1 as designated law enforcement agency for the provision of law enforcement services dated November 10, 2003. This agreement was terminated as of April 11, 2023 due to the sole recommendation of your former employee. Let it now be known that Precinct Number 1, Constable Philip Cash, just received the award as the Constable of the Year for the state of Texas. We, the people, would say that we were led down the wrong path or that we have egg on our face. We have an opportunity to right the ship and move forward with integrity and honesty. Let's do it.
Thank you, Ms. Hibner. The second person who signed up to speak today is Ms. Abby Yarborough.
For over a decade, I have been consistently involved in our school district. In 2021, my child, along with others, got a concussion while playing football for Willis High School. Our kids weren't issued equipment properly and were playing in expired helmets. I had no idea that by questioning state-mandated safety regulations would lead into uncovering a multitude of discrepancies. We claimed to do it for the children, but when it came time to protect our children, our superintendent and the board member involved refused to properly rectify the situation. Attending board meetings, I started to question district operations and procedural omissions. Failing to get honest answers, I was encouraged to go public, and I did just that. Our superintendent has never been held accountable to our community for the wrongdoings and critical failures that occurred on his watch. Superintendents take home big money in Texas, so the buck does stop with them. Willis ISD reported no conflict of interest in our entire district until recent TEA complaints were made. He's allowed staff to moonlight for district vendors when going undisclosed for years to the taxpayer. He himself was speaking at their conferences. Our student performance was shameful. Rather than take ownership of his failure, he let district employees and his friends get on social media to publicly blame our minority community and lack of parental involvement. He built a new administration building without seeking taxpayer approval. We had poor audit reports for multiple years and were issued corrective action plans, just to name a few. Most recently, I was physically assaulted when our current school board member and his friend group saw my family out in public. This heinous act was followed by verbal attack by the board member himself, and it was absolutely repulsive. District employees were present, and this is who endorsed our superintendent being hired at the CSISD board meeting back in June in his official capacity. Today, our superintendent doubled down on the company he keeps by thanking him in College Station. I have to live in fear of retaliation in my own town because I chose to publicly question our school district and its leadership. How disturbing is that? For over a year, my family has been targeted in our personal life, our home, vehicles, and in more ways than I can count. But most of all, my children have. Through staff and other students who have harassed my children because they are friends with these so-called leaders. None of this is indicative of community collaboration for the sake of our children, but a weak-minded approach to public opposition. When released from his contract and headed to the next vulnerable town, our superintendent will leave here with an open AOG complaint, withholding information that he knows to be public. No one could have prepared my family for all that we have endured under the leadership of this superintendent when I chose to voice my concerns. I leave you with this. Stop running our district like a corrupt political regime, because public schools are not your personal playground or your kingdom to rule. Poor leadership is why our legislator is pushing school choice. To anyone here for any reason other than to serve the best interests of every student in our district or taxpayer in our community, please resign.
Thank you, Ms. Yarborough. We will now convene into closed session. The board will now convene into closed session for the purposes of considering matters for which closed session is authorized by Title V, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code .071 through .084 and .129. A, trustees may convene into closed session to receive legal advice regarding A, ranking of proposals submitted by the interest construction firms in middle school number 3 with auxiliary facilities project. B, board's March 31st, 2023 action to award the proposal of 2020 bond project, Willis High School baseball and softball fields, improvements for turf renovation project. C, determine the construction delivery method providing the best value for the 2022 bond project, Willis High School baseball and softball complex, improvements for turf renovation projects, and delegate authority for the acting superintendent to designate a procurement, including determination of the criteria, weight, and methodology. Item B, attorney consultation regarding legal issues pertaining to superintendent search and transition authority, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129. C, discuss, consider appointment of acting superintendent pending determination of an interim superintendent by the board, Texas Government Code 551.074. It is 4:08 p.m. The board will now reconvene into open session. It is 6:01 p.m. Are there any motions from closed session? Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. I move that we appoint Sarah Goolsby, Assistant Superintendent, as the acting superintendent for Willis ISD until the board takes action to employ an interim superintendent.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Congratulations. And we appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Discuss and possible action items. A, discuss and consider reclassification of existing position.
Good evening, board. We were here to discuss the reclassification of an existing position. The district outreach liaison at the Wildcat Resource Center. We would like to recommend that we take that to part-time instead of full-time so that we can meet the needs of the Wildcat Resource Center as we have, and we'll reevaluate those needs in 6 months, but we would like to take that position from full-time to part-time.
Ms. Traylor.
I make the motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the reclassification of the position listed above.
We have a motion by Ms. Traylor, a second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Item B, consider and possible action item on ranking of proposals submitted by interested construction firms for the middle school number 3 with auxiliary facilities project. Mr. Deuceval.
Thank you, sir. As you know, we have selected the construction manager at risk as our delivery method for middle school number 3. As such, we solicited an RFP and received responses for that. We are bringing you that ranking this afternoon in hopes of proceeding and developing a contract with that individual company so that we can continue the construction on middle school number 3.
Do we have a ranking? Are we being given the ranking?
Do we have, are you presenting the ranking to us?
I don't have it with me. The ranking determined that our recommendation is that Tech was going to be the firm that we were referring to.
Okay.
Tech won the bid based off the criteria?
Based on the ranking, that's correct, sir.
And who was 2 and 3?
To the best of my recollection, Stewart Builders was number 2, and I believe Pogue was in there at probably number 3.
Thank you.
Do you know how many total bidders we had?
5, sir.
So at this point in time, we're just approving the ranking
That's
of
correct.
those presented.
That is correct.
And then we will move forward with getting the contract details and everything, and then that will come back to board for approval. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, perfect. Scott?
I move that the board approve the ranking as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Mr. Jones. Is there any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item C, consideration and possible action items to rescind the board's March 31st, 2023 action for the award of proposal for the 2022 bond project, Willis High School Baseball and Softball Complex Improvements for Turf Renovation Project.
Thank you, sir. We had previously brought you a recommendation for a vendor for this particular project. During the course of our contract negotiations, we wanted to go back and go through the process because we weren't sure if we hammered every step along the way. What we're doing this evening is rescinding that previous allocation, and then what we will do here in a little bit is start the process over. So we're asking you in this particular instance to rescind that original recommendation.
Mr. Williams?
I move that the board rescind its March 31st, 2023 action for award of a proposal on the 2022 bond project, Willis High School Baseball and Softball Complex Improvements for Turf Renovations Project.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Coach Perry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item D, consider and possible action item to determine construction delivery method providing the improvements of the turf renovation project and delegate authority to the acting superintendent or designee for the procurement, including determination for the criteria, weight, and methodology of the project.
Thank you, sir. Working with council, we are recommending the following process as we go through with this turf project. The first step, obviously, is going to be the delivery method of what we're asking, and we are recommending that the district receive competitive seal proposals for those particular projects.
Carson?
Move that the board determine that the competitive seal proposals method and the method providing the best value for the 2022 bond project, Willis High School Baseball and Softball Complex Improvements for Turf Renovations Project, and delegates authority to acting superintendent or designee to take all action for the procurement, including work with council to prepare criteria, weight of criteria, methodology, and the procurement package as a whole in publication.
I have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Mr. Williams. Is there any further discussion?
Paul, do we know what this is going to do to the timeline?
At the very least, it's going to push us back probably about a month and a half, 2 months, sir.
So now we're probably looking at the end of the first semester.
That sounds correct.
Do we have any reason to believe that budget amount will change?
Presentation-wise, our budget won't change. It depends on what bids they submit at the second come.
Okay.
Being Being no further discussion, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item E, discuss and consider approval of fire alarm wiring for Lynn Lucas Middle School.
Thank you, sir. We are proposing to bring you a proposal this evening in the amount of $66,539 to replace the actual wiring at Lynn Lucas for their fire alarm system. We had previously approved to repair and replace in-use devices, but we did not at that time replace the wiring. We encountered some of those discoveries when we had our fire. The recommendation is that we replace the wiring itself, and that's the proposal we're bringing you this evening. We should be able to start this and hopefully get most of it done before school starts.
Mr. Williams.
So, based on this, the fire alarm system works as it stands right now, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what we are lacking is Pyrotechs, is my understanding, has not completed the Lynn Lucas addition. Is that correct?
Not sure what you're referring to, sir.
To the addition to the science lab in contract with Pope Construction.
Okay.
Correct. So I have a problem of awarding somebody something when they haven't completed the job, and so my recommendation would be to table this until they can complete
I
that
am
job.
unaware of the not finishing in science edition that you're referring to, but I'll check on that, sir.
Okay, so we're gonna table item E till further notice. Item F, discuss and consider approval of coolant for WHS chiller plant.
Thank you, sir. When we established the chiller plant at the high school several years ago, we set in a preventive maintenance system. We'll go in and treat the coolant that is there. Actually, over time, it degrades to the point where it needs to be replaced. We are at that stage at this moment. We can plan to have this done and completed before the kids get back, which will provide us cooling capacity in the hottest part of the year, which is in August, which is when school will begin. We're asking your approval to do that this evening in the amount of $101,101.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
Is the chiller operational right now?
Yes, sir, it is.
Everything's cooling fine?
Everything is going fine. It's kind of like changing the oil in your car. After a while, it just gets to the point where it's past the point of no return, and now's the time to replace.
How much time and leeway would you need to get this done?
Probably about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, okay, I would like to set up some, meet with you next week if I could.
Absolutely.
All
yes,
right,
sir.
thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and table item F as well. We just need Mr. Williams.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, second by Ms. Traylor. All those in favor? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. 6-0. See you next Wednesday night at 5:30.